Hello, I'm Alitzel Rodriguez Garcia, and welcome back to another episode of W.I.S.E. W.I.S.E. Today we are going to be discussing Sigmund Freud, his ideologies, the Madonna whore complex, and how it damages society's views on women. We are going to be talking with someone who has studied psychology and taught AP psychology. Will also be going into femicide, not only in America, but in other countries. To start off, who is Sigmund Freud?
Sigmund Freud, born May 1856, died September 1939, had been an Austrian neurologist. Now, he may not be a credible source, but his theories do have a lasting impact in how it is treated today.
His theories have been extremely influential and controversial at the same time. He had made the theory of male envy.
Male envy is where females that are cisgender want to be a man. Girls have developed a feeling of inadequacy and feel inferior to men.
It's not similar to what people might say transgender. They don't want to be a man, but they would rather have the privilege some men have.
However, this theory comes with a lot of backlash as it does not take into account personal experiences. Of course, social, personal, and cultural experiences take a huge spot into how this works.
He is considered the founder of psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis, described by Britannica.com as the method of treating mental disorders shaped by psychoanalytical theory, which emphasizes unconscious mental processes and is sometimes described as depth psychology.
In simple words, it is the method for treating mental disorders through talking. He is best known for his theories on the role of the unconscious mind, the significance of dreams, and how influential childhood affects your actions.
Freud had many different theories, such being the psychosexual dream that paths out the stages of development people go through that can be characterized by conflicts. Another is the model of personality, based on ego, superego, and V.I.D. It changes how behavior and personality is acted.
Ironically enough, some of the theories we still see today, Freud had given significant contribution to, one being that people pick partners who exhibit a sense of familiarity to their parents. The idea was coined by Freud as the repetition compulsion. As humans, we see how our parents act or got treated, and it gets passed down from generation to generation.
For example, if your parents are in an abusive relationship, you're more likely to choose a partner that is abusive. We see jokes about it in media, like the Boondocks. The compulsion manifests in resemblance to what they know, in hope for a different outcome.
Sigmund Freud had explained how a family dynamic plays a significant role in shaping individual preferences and relationships and the similar family structure.
This leads into our main topic of today, the Madonna whore complex. It was named by Sigmund Freud and refers to the psychological thoughts where men either perceive women as the saintess Madonna, a pure and innocent, or the whore. Madonna in this case does not refer to the pop singer, but the Virgin Mary. This ideology promotes harmful stereotypes that affect gender dynamics.
Freud had done many theories and studies on this ideology. From Refinery29.com, I quote, dichotomous pattern in his male patients where they seem to regard women either as saintess, the virtuous, chastite, and sacred, that they loved, or as sex workers, aka the sexual, promiscuous, and desirable person that they had lusted after, and they couldn't seem to reconcile both of these virtues in a single person. In more modern terms, this means you're either marriage material or you're sexually desirable, but some people cannot see you as both.
This ideology is just a construct of male psychology.
The complex is clear objectification and sexualization of women. Women are expected to become this standard of pure and perfect saintess. We see a lot of examples of this in literature. One I can think of off the top of my head is Lolita, where the main character, Humbert, takes Dolores as his pure saint, the Madonna, and objectifies her as his, or the whore.
We've seen it in class too. When we read The Crucible, Abigail Williams pretends to be the saint that is trying to protect everyone from a witch that makes her the Madonna, when in reality she created that witch. Her manipulation turns her into the whore.
This whole ideology degrades women into specific roles, especially in television shows where we see this very often that characters can either be the Madonna or the whore, or like eventually turn into both, where Breaking Bad with Skylar, The Crown, Game of Thrones with Cersei, etc.
It doesn't just hide in the media, it can be anyone's relationship. It isn't just limited to men, it can go across all genders. However, due to its inherently misogynistic nature, it's men's aggression towards women.
The complex reinforces gender inequality and expectations on women. Women are forced to navigate through a narrow path that's both virtuous and desirable. Double standards are placed on women, such as how we see people slander women for flirting with their girlfriends in a joking manner. I mean, when men do it, it's okay because they're just homosexual. I've seen it a lot personally.
I mean, yeah, you see it in school. Obviously, there's just a group of boys in your grade where they constantly flirt with one another in a joking way. They'll be physical with each other in a joking way. But once you have male friends come and see you as a girl doing that with your friends and like a joking matter, like
Suddenly it's a
verbally,
problem.
yeah, suddenly it's a problem with them because they don't see it as womanly. They see it as like weird and like
weird and like it makes them
abstract.
uncomfortable, even though they do the same exact actions.
Mm-hmm.
Another huge problem into this is the porn industry and the harm it has on women. A part of this may be the person feels bad sexualizing their own Madonna. In this case, it might be their wife. That is why some of them may turn to watching porn or cheat, ironically enough.
Carly Dober, a psychologist, goes into this thought that, once again, I quote, when your partner will feel uncomfortable sexualizing you, engaging in sex acts that you may have shared and enjoyed previously, and they'll say or think things like, quote, I can't do that with my married partner, or that's not right, or you can't make a hoe a housewife, end quote.
Such thoughts can be happening during a big milestone like a kid, when they're engaged or married, or for a full commitment. They might be fine before that happens, but as soon as it happens, it's a complete 360 in how they acted and who they were before.
We can also see the thoughts of the Madonna whore complex into religion. In Judeo-Christian theology, women are categorized into pure angel or promiscuous slut. Are women praised or shamed, accepted or ignored, angel or devil, etc., etc.?
In this patriarchal or religious sense of this, there are some that think women are only useful for reproduction or raising children.
To not act on their own happiness or pleasure, this is another main point of the complex.
On the other hand, there is the feminist theory, which is the complete opposite of the Madonna whore theory.
It criticizes the societal structure and inequalities in power dynamics. Women who make decisions about their own bodies, presentation, and sexual pleasure are judged as dangerous. They tempt opposite sex with wicked acts and sultry behaviors that supposedly cause men to lose control, to act on base primal instincts.
They assume that the women are taken by the devil and are used to basically bewitch other men.
Some interpretations in the Old and New Testament are that women were created for the purpose of serving men. Some people mean that a good woman who does what her man says with unquestionable loyalty will be honored and protected, while a bad woman who disobeys the rules of a man will be condemned and face the consequences of God.
I mean, once again, in The Crucible, where Proctor's wife was supposed to be that good wife and not have a problem with the fact that John had cheated. And not only in this, but this complex places a heavy burden on victim and blames victims of rape. We had found this information out from verywellmind.com.
The victim being blamed as a whore can lead to derogatory comments blaming how a woman might have been dressed.
By saying certain things like, quote, oh, it's how she was dressed, or she was just too tempting, end quote, only solidifies rape culture in society.
What rape culture is when there is a normalization or acceptance of rape and sexual assault. In a culture where rape is common, victim blaming and minimizing the problem is only leading to a worse problem.
I mean, rape culture doesn't have to be in just physical actions, it can also manifest in jokes that are considered dark humor, but I personally don't really see how it's considered funny to make a joke about sexually assaulting someone.
Rape culture not only has people not wanting to speak up about their experiences, but also harms when men want to speak up about what happened to them as well.
Because if men see women getting shamed so often, it leads to them not wanting to speak up. Because if they see them getting blamed, they think that, oh, it's not manly what happened to me.
Exactly, a lot of men who do speak up are either ignored, they're just like shut off completely by saying, "Oh, your story's false. You just want attention."
Okay, back onto the main point. The idea of blaming how a woman was dressed allows for a person to say that they were tempted because of how she was dressed, she was a whore, she deserved it. It just continuously creates a bad cycle for people in general.
But you should never blame a person based on how they were dressed, male or female.
This thought process of the Madonna whore complex can lead to damaging women's viewpoints, and it also insults men as the crazy, sex-driven animal that cannot control themselves. Such thoughts of the Madonna whore complex can lead to internalized misogyny.
Take, for example, women may feel the need to change how they act or look to make themselves look attractive to a man. This could also lead to gossip and insult other women.
Of course, as a final outcome, women are judged and judging.
Dr. Jennifer Littner says that the idea of being either Madonna or the whore can lead to anxiety, shame, and or confusion for the woman.
Men are continuously negatively affected by their ideals of the Madonna whore complex. It overall limits to how men think about women and can lead to a limited relationship with women. It's like how we talked about in the last podcast. Men think of alpha males think of women as their property, and they're just not going to get anywhere with that.
Exactly. If you keep having this idealistic view or materialistic view of a person, obviously you're not going to have a very good view on yourself. Because if you have to have all these materialistic things, that being a person, first of all, you're not going to be very well liked. Today we have our guest, a teacher here local at our school who has studied psychology. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Cara Fergils. I've been teaching AP Psychology for 2 years and AP U.S. History for 5 years.
So I'd like to start us off with our first question. How would you say you have seen the Madonna whore complex in the media?
So in the media, I would say that it's mostly seen in stereotypes. You'll have a TV show where literally the main woman character is either completely sexualized, where they have multiple men or multiple love interests, or they're so wholesome that you'll never see them partner with somebody. There's usually not someone in the middle where it's more typical of a day-to-day. It's usually one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it too, especially toward specifically Asians, funny enough, where it's always the sexy Chinese girl that either has a dragon or chopsticks in her hair.
It's usually with action movies where it involves the main American military actor, and he goes to overseas to fight off the Japanese yakuza, and then one of the yakuza members is a girl who's super good at fighting, but she's also in a dress and high heels. It's so...
I mean, it still happens today. You see those big 6-foot military men with their little 4-foot nothing Vietnamese wife.
And she's always very sexy, not in a typical jeans and t-shirt. That's never gonna happen.
Oh my god.
Have you seen societal or cultural influence contribute to the development of the Madonna whore complex?
I definitely think societal, even if you take it back to history where you have the quote unquote typical role of a woman. So it's like, yeah, you can be in a workplace now, but we're still fighting for equality. So it's like, yes, culturally, women and men are quote unquote equals, but you're still that over sexualized. Like you will be going back to the media, you will be like the assistant who's having an affair with the boss. Like you're never the boss who is just doing something else. Like it's still over sexualized.
Like the boss and the secretary trope.
Exactly.
Ugh, I don't like that trope. It's like so weird because like, isn't like one of your rules like usually in workplaces like, oh, don't have affairs.
Don't date your superior.
Don't date your superior. Don't date your coworkers. Just makes everything weird. And then
But
like
you've never seen a woman boss with a male secretary that's like hitting on them. That would never happen.
And when you do, people are like, "Oh, that's so weird. She's abusing her power."
Exactly.
and they like switch it around like because if it was a man, oh, it would be like, oh my god, this is so desirable. I want this type of life story. It's like with a bunch of books like recently. How you see like a bunch of books be like, oh, they portray more of a like misogynistic view of like how women want to be treated, but it's just like a fantasy that's been over sexualized over the years that's become so normalized.
Right.
And I mean, like, it's kind of crazy the equality difference, like with the 13th Amendment, the 15th, the 19th, like when women get rights, it's so much later than everybody else. Like I think I remember I saw something where like women couldn't open a credit card by themselves until like 1980 something. Like that's crazy to think about. So for our third question, can childhood experiences or like family dynamics influence the development of a child growing up?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Are we still talking about the Madonna horror complex or just in general?
Just in general.
So, absolutely. If you think about, even let's talk about mental illness, it usually starts from a trigger. Like you can have a mother, for example, with bipolar disorder, and she has 2 children, and one of them is exposed to something different, and then the other one has a quote unquote easier type of life. They're going to have 2 different experiences. Or you think about, you have 2 twins who are split up. One is with grandma, one is with the dad. They might have 2 different experiences too. So I think your childhood experience kind of gives you a trajectory of what's going to happen, like where you have your goals, your different mindsets. You definitely see that. Or even taking it back to the Madonna horror complex, if a son sees their father treat the mother differently because she's supposed to be dainty and, you know, dressed up in heels when they go out, they start to expect that of their partners and stuff as well. And same thing with the girl. So I definitely think that childhood experience is going to influence the way that they develop.
Kind of like nurture versus nature.
Absolutely.
Like, what one would you say is more important?
I personally think nurture. I know that genetics have a lot to do with a lot of things, especially when you come to just different attributes, but the way a child grows up is going to definitely change the way they view life. When we talk about in class where we do like this quiz to see where you are politically, like that changes based off of who you are, not how you were born and what type of genes you have.
Yeah, like Ben Hatton was talking about that your family plays the biggest role of who you pick politically and whatnot.
Yeah, because of like political socialization and how like, oh, you're raised to follow these political views because your parents feed you it, because it's what they want you to grow up as.
Right, but as a baby, you did not have those views. you had to be nurtured. So there's nothing in you that remotely said, no, because you are born left-handed, you are going to do X, Y, Z. So I definitely think nurture.
Do you think self-esteem and self-image also play a role?
Oh, yes. The way you see yourself kind of gives you the foundation of what you think you can do. If you feel as though you are missing some components or you're not good enough, you might not take that extra leap to apply for this school. Or you might think, okay, because I grew up in this neighborhood, no one like me gets to do this opportunity, I'm not even going to try. So I think that level of saying I'm confident or I have these resources, I know how to get it, definitely impacts how you see yourself.
And for our last question, do you think that seeing television that portrays women in a stereotypical way damages self-esteem in young girls?
I think it can go either way, honestly, because if I'm a young girl and I'm seeing these TV shows where the woman is having this particular role, and I see it in my household as well, I might think that's the only thing I can do. Or again, you might have a best friend who does exactly what she wants to do, and it's like, girl, no, like, absolutely not. You can be a lawyer, and you might think it's okay. So I think it can honestly go either way.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like how some people hate like dolls that portray like the white, blonde, blue-eyed girl, but then they turn around and love Barbie. It's kind of the same thing.
Yes.
Like, I don't know, it just personally doesn't make any sense to me with that.
Yeah, it's like people who like preach, oh, that diet culture is so bad, but then once you see the pages of those people who preach it, you can see that they also have some type of influence over diet culture as well. So like gym influencers who say like,
God.
oh, like,
Glorified eating disorder.
okay, yeah, that it's like gym influencers who say like, oh, you don't need to like be skinny to like start making muscle, but then later on you see one of their posts that like contradicts what they're saying, like, oh, you need to do this and that and this and that to like be able to go there. It's like really contradicts one another.
You're the host, bro.
Okay. Thank you so much for being on our podcast and accepting our invitation. Would you like to like say anything else?
Yeah, thank you for having me. See, you all are empowering me as a woman, and I am defying stereotypes because I'm wearing pants today and still ask for valuable input. But no, I thank you for thinking of me, and I wish you all your podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. On to our final topic of today. We are going to talk about femicide.
What is femicide? Femicide is categorized by dictionary.com as the deliberate or purposeful murder of a girl or woman based on her gender.
More often than not, statistics have shown that femicide is usually done by a man. Even more than that, they are murdered by their own partners, someone they had known.
We see violence of women against their own partners all the time. Taken from theguardians.com, we are here to share a few stories of women who have died.
In respect of these women, we will be taking a moment of silence. In July, the body of Jerry Winters was discovered in Clinton Township, Michigan. Her boyfriend, Matthew Lewinsky, admitted to the police he strangled her last December, keeping her mutilated body in the basement of the home they shared for months. He had not given her the peace of burying her. He had violated her body and left her in a basement for 7 months after he had murdered her.
That same week, in Starksville, Mississippi, William Chisholm was convicted of murder and the death of his ex-girlfriend, Dr. Shawana Witt, 1 month after their breakup. He had went to the Walmart eye clinic where Witt worked and shot her till she had died, as every man, woman, and child watched. It only took a jury 26 minutes to find him guilty. He was sentenced to life in jail.
In Baltimore, Maryland, Gomeska Chisala was held without bail after confessing to the killing of his ex-girlfriend, Shauna Green, a nurse and mother of 2 young children. Earlier in the month, Chisala had driven to her home with a gun. They had entered into an argument with her and shot her till she was dead.
FBI statistics on nationwide homicides reveal that a vast number of women killed in the U.S. are killed by their current or former partners. According to the CDC, homicide is the 4th leading cause of death for girls and women 1 to 19 years old, and the 5th leading cause of women from 20 to 44.
According to FBI data from the VPC.org, for all female homicides accounted for in 2018, where the relationship between the perpetrator and victim could be identified, 92% of cases involved women or girls killed by a man they knew.
And 63% of whom were killed by their current husbands, ex-husbands, or current boyfriends. The top 10 states in 2018 that have the highest murder rate of females by men is Alaska, Missouri, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Louisiana, Arkansas, Nevada, North Dakota, Tennessee, and Montana.
To explain this data clearly, in 2018 there had been 1,946 females murdered by male and single victim offenders that had been submitted to the FBI, in which, when the nature of lethal violence were found, 92% of female victims, that are 1,606 out of 1,748, were murdered by a male they knew. Only 142 victims were killed by male strangers. That is 11 times as many females that were killed by a male they did know. For those who knew their offenders, 63% or 1,014 were wives or intimate partners of their killers. Of that, 280 women were shot by either their husband or intimate acquaintance during an argument.
There is a huge inequality for women who cannot leave a dangerous situation. Some women cannot leave their husbands because they financially report on their husbands. Their husbands have taken away every form of money they have. They control their bank accounts, their credit cards, etc. They cannot leave them. Their husband might also have control over what they do, where they act, and they can just overall not afford a lawyer for divorce. There's barely any funding to victims, not just female victims, but male victims as well.
Femicide is a silent epidemic that is taking over the nation. As a country, we are able to stop it, but only if awareness is brought to it.